Hello everyone, before we get further into the video, I just would like to announce really quick a podcast that I'm a part of with my co-host Jal Bagel. Him and I have been doing a podcast to kind of bring around more of the topic around mental health and content creation on YouTube, Twitch, etc.
Definitely, it was
$1,800 on gacha games.
it was never a thought.
Problem.
Yeah,
I'm looking at
spent
all
a lot
those
of money.
Genshin streamers now doing their tax returns like, fuck.
Oh man,
And there are a lot of people that you guys might know that are on there as guests, so we would love to see you guys there. Link will be in the description below. Hope to see you. And yeah, back to the video. Gatekeeping.
ほう、向かってくるのか。逃げずにこのディオに近づいてくるのか。
Stop it. Keep my games out of your mouth! Gatekeeping is something that has been around forever, not just in gaming, but in everything. In almost every community I've been a part of, there is always someone who loves to gatekeep what they love, and is not involving other people to be a part of it that are new to the topic. To those who don't really know what gatekeeping is, it is when someone takes it upon themselves to decide who does or does not have access to or rights to a community or identity.
Unfortunately for you, however, you are meaningless.
Found this on Urban Dictionary. In this video, I would like to talk about this topic of gatekeeping and how I feel it affects different communities, specifically around communities like Monster Hunter, Pokemon, and anime. With gatekeeping, it is something that has made it difficult for some community members to get involved in the game, where someone would rather close them out of a series than have them experience the journey. Then there's the fact of how bad this train of thought is, and not letting people have their own opinions. This topic is definitely something more prevalent in any community that has been active and ongoing for years. For example, in something like Monster Hunter, something that we'll be talking a lot about in this video, where it's a series that's been out for years since 2004, and didn't really become more mainstream in the West until one of its more recent releases, Monster Hunter World, which came out in 2018. This game has been out for 4 years, what? A lot of people that were into the series for X amount of time before were getting upset with people getting into it with World being the first game. Then later mentioning that they shouldn't be a part of the community. When Monster Hunter World came out, it did a great job in introducing new players to the franchise. It was made into a way where if anyone were to pick up the game, that it could be easily understood. The hunts in Monster Hunter World were considered easier for those who were in the franchise beforehand, due to the quality of light changes. Where people that were into the games before World came out were upset that it was a lot of people's first game, and claiming that a lot of new people were inexperienced and blind to see how the series was and should be. With Monster Hunter, this will be something that I'll expand upon later when explaining my personal experience with gatekeeping. It's not something new that has just been brought up in any way at all, but it's something that I would love to put my 2 cents in and talk about. With new people getting into franchises that has been out for a while, it could be difficult to figure out where to start, especially when there have been multiple games in the series. For games that has been out for a while, it can be difficult for them to try and out releases that are not the best with controls, and nowadays even graphics mean a lot to people. There are many different reasons why people would start games where they did. People shouldn't feel excluded from a series no matter where they started off, even if people don't want to play or watch a previous release because of gameplay or graphics. There have been countless times where gatekeepers have been negative and or toxic to people depending on where they started. I feel people should feel happy for new players getting into a series that they love. I would encourage new players to try out previous releases, but I wouldn't force them at all or feel like they shouldn't play a game they are currently playing. If people don't want to play a certain game, then that is entirely up to them. Don't exclude other people just because they haven't played the game. Gatekeeping has been around my life for a while, as someone who is getting into certain forms of entertainment a little later than others, especially when it comes to the video game series known as Monster Hunter. When getting into the series with the game Monster Hunter World, as it was my first time I ever heard about the Capcom series, I was brought into the series through one of my friends who's been into the games for years. I couldn't get into it at first when I started playing it since it was a different style of gameplay than what I was used to with games like Call of Duty and Overwatch. Then over time, I really fell in love with the playstyle and the fact that you could play with so many people in one game. I later realized that there were previous releases to the game, and World wasn't the only one. However, eventually over time, with playing the game, I had met a lot of people mentioning that I wasn't a true fan of the series because I started with Monster Hunter World. I find something like this funny to me. Monster Hunter World and later Monster Hunter Rise were two of the most mainstream Monster Hunter games ever. The fluidity of the games made it the most appealing to a lot of new players getting into the series, along with making a debut to PC. These two games, with the graphics and quality of life, were the best it ever has been. These games were what brought so many new people to the games with its clear tutorials and instructions and got people hooked. Whereas the previous releases were more clunky in a way with their movement and graphics weren't the most appealing to the vast majority of people getting into the games. The motion of me not being a true fan, however, is funny mostly because I was supposed to know about the previous releases of the games when I never heard about the games until World came out. The games were not numbered consistently when the games came out, like Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, Freeview Unite, Rise, and so on. I did later on get into playing the previous releases as well. Localization wasn't really common in the West either. Most of the Monster Hunter releases were mainly focused in Japan and other countries. I wanted to find out what's so good about them and how people got to experience the games. I later got into Generations Ultimate, 4 Ultimate, which became my favorite in the series, then recently got the chance to try 3 Ultimate, which I made videos about and my experience of them. You should totally check them out. It was really interesting playing these games and how they were made in the past. Monster Hunter World was definitely the divide in the community, where it definitely appealed to the vast majority of the audience that likes the newer, cleaner looking games. People that have been playing World and Rise probably don't feel like playing the older style of Monster Hunter, and that's fine. It's not something that should be looked down upon. In the end, it doesn't matter where you started off. You are definitely still considered a fan. You can have your favorite monster, you can have your favorite weapon no matter how many changes it went through in the series. This is your experience, your way of playing. Don't let others tell you that you aren't a fan of something that you genuinely love playing. For myself, I'm a huge fan of the series. I pour a ton of hours playing a lot of the Monster Hunter releases, and I can't wait for more to come. I have made loads of friends through this series, and it's something that has made Monster Hunter that much more enjoyable. With gatekeeping, I've been pretty lucky, with things like anime or Pokemon like that we talked about earlier. I got into them pretty early, so there was never a discussion of why I've never got into them earlier. Even when talking about gatekeeping, I want to understand why people would think it's okay to even do so in the first place. It could be many different things. People would have many reasons as to why they would become a gatekeeper in the first place. People have many experiences when playing the games they love, especially where they started in them. Since a lot of people are hopping into the franchise by starting with World and other previous releases, there are people that feel the need to tell them that they aren't a true fan if they didn't start with their series from the beginning, or from a release that isn't the first Monster Hunter. Because who's really playing the game for fun? Why would you use an analog stick to fight? The first Monster Hunter is definitely one I plan on playing, but yeah, I'm definitely dreading it when the day comes. When it comes to gatekeeping, I can understand it to the extent where you want people to have the same feeling you did when you first started. You want people to feel the joy you have when you pick up the first game in the series and see how it evolves from there. A lot of it has to do with nostalgia. Sometimes people don't even realize they're gatekeeping. People have different ways of showing excitement, and it can be looked at as gatekeeping. Some people might think they should start with another game instead of, for example, Monster Hunter World. Gatekeeping is something that's been around more so recently than it ever has been, with other platforms to share opinions on, becoming more popular. This has been more prevalent, especially now because of the recent pandemic. A lot of people are finding something new to do. Regardless, this is something that shouldn't happen or should be recognized. With getting into old franchises, I would definitely encourage new people to try out older releases in the series, but it wouldn't be the end of the world if people don't want to. People definitely have reasons why they feel the need to defend a series, but it isn't fair for the new individual. In the end, let people experience their journey through the games. Everyone has their own journey, it doesn't matter where they started. I always enjoy hearing how people started their journeys no matter where they started. It's fun seeing how new people unravel the story that we have been a part of for so long. Even experiencing it with them, seeing how they react to different parts of the story or game. Gatekeeping is a bad train of thought to have, so stop it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you all enjoyed, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. And we also have a Patreon. I post up updates on what we do there for all the content I make here on YouTube. Also, for those who don't know, I have been making content on other platforms as well, mostly TikTok more and streaming every week. If you are interested and would like to hunt with me, join in on the chaos. I would love to see you all there. Also tell me what was your experience with gatekeeping, and what was your first game in the series that you were into. Love your faces and see you all in the next video.